Hello everyone, this is DDS12 coming at you with the very first announcement video that I ever posted on this channel individually. Yeah, normally I just put details in video descriptions or in pinned comments whenever I'm making these updates. However, seeing as this popped out of nowhere, I really felt the need to discuss something like this in a video. Not to mention that, if you haven't already noticed, I'm a diehard fan of the Madoka franchise. Therefore, this just seems like a huge deal to me personally. But before I get started, you may have noticed that I'm not using my Live 2D viewer for my Mammy model in this video and instead resorted to avatars. Well, I figured by abiding to this method, I can convey my actual emotions during discussions rather than smiling. Every single time. Plus, I won't have to worry about recording my voice and my Mammy model separately, and it'll save me the trouble of setting it up, so yeah. Look forward to seeing something like this whenever I'm doing these types of updates. Otherwise, let's just cut to the chase, shall we? At the end of August 2020, Magia Record NA, aka Aniplex, announced on their Twitter that the game from the North American server will be officially shutting down on September 29th around midnight. And no, you can't even transfer your account ID to another device when this happens. Now, two things. I'm well aware that I might be late bringing up this topic now, since many people on YouTube have posted their own videos about the situation immediately after the shutdown was announced in August. However, I did want to wait until the end of September just so I could discuss my cunning plan to attempt to prevail over this situation, which I will discuss later, so bear with me. Which took a whole month, so I wouldn't have possibly had time to make this video by then. Plus school. I'm also aware that on September 17, 2020, Aniplex responded to this situation by extending their operations until October 30th, implementing gallery mode, in which you can only view your magical girls. Okay, that seems pretty great and all, but the operation still isn't permanent, and if I had to guess, I'm pretty sure everything with the sole exception of gallery mode will be severed from everyone's grasp. This, to me, feels nothing more than a cut and dry epilogue of a long storybook. Also, by the time Aniplex has announced this extended version, I can assume that everyone will have deleted their Magia record out by then, so way to go, Aniplex! Anyways, you must be wondering what kind of crazy explanation Aniplex has for declaring this shutdown. Well, the reason for that is nothing! No, I'm not kidding, there's literally no actual explanation as to why they would shut down the game in front of our faces. Not to mention it taking place only a year after the game was released. That's when I decided to dig around the internet via a quick Google search, and I came across this article which suggests that the supposed reason for the game's shutdown was due to the fact that the game simply was not generating enough money to make it worthwhile for the company. Yeah, they're essentially going through with this because of money. Wow, isn't it so surprising that a company like Aniplex would decide to shit all over their IP just because they wanted to attempt to pull a Mr. Krabs act more than anything else and miserably failed? Okay, all sarcasm aside, if you have been playing a lot of gacha games like this, then you would have probably anticipated this. And I'll admit that I didn't know of this fact at all until I did more research regarding the game's shutdown. So let me explain. Basically, gacha games serve a main purpose for players to spend real-life money for in-game currency in exchange for a random virtual game item, in which that real-life money goes to the company that's running the gacha property. However, if any gacha games were to not make as much profit as the company that's running that property hoped they would, then it would be prone to go out of business. Sadly, this has become the condition for every gacha game that's unpopular. So, this begs the question, what did Aniplex do exactly that caused the game to, quote, not make as much profit as they hoped they would and thus, in return, caused the game to shut down? I'll tell you why. Region locking. Region locking is basically a console or any device that only operates games in that specified region and nothing farther than that. For example, let's say Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes for the 3DS being available in America and only on an American 3DS console. If you go on vacation to Europe to visit friends or family or something, and bring your American console and game to that European region and wanted to play multiplayer, you wouldn't be able to regardless if you were playing next to each other or online because the consoles that the two people would be using are regionally different. Most of the general reasons for region locking would be that they either want to control their prices or protect the IP from other regions who'd want to tamper around with it. I'd rather not go into detail with these, otherwise I might never get back to the topic at hand, so I'm just gonna move on. In Magireko's case, this might be just a hunch, but I think the decision to region lock the game property isn't a coincidence. How do I know this, you ask? Well, let's look at the last detail at the bottom of the announcement from August that Aniplex posted on their Twitter. Paid Magia stones cannot be refunded, huh? So I'm guessing outright stating that the money spent on gems cannot be refunded, even though many people have wasted so much cash for something that's gonna evaporate out of existence soon seems more rational than anything else. Was this really bound to happen whenever gacha games shut down like this? Especially unpopular ones? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but after doing research, I've come to the conclusion that Aniplex intentionally region locked their games just so they could legally bank off of people's money, and that they were worried that other countries might sue the company for doing just that. And do you want to know what's even more implausible? It's the fact that they seem to be doing pretty well according to this revenue chart as of 2019 and onward. I could maybe understand if they weren't making enough, because if you compare this to Fate Grand's or the revenue chart, you can see that FGO has beaten Magireko by a landslide. But it's still better than nothing, you know? I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking things and throwing off pointless accusations, but if this were actually true, then in the end, this just makes Aniplex look more greedy than I expected them to be, and that in return slightly lowers my respect for them. Not that it means anything in the grand scheme of things. I mean, generally they fail to keep the NA server fresh, despite screwing people over for their own gain. So I guess you could say karma? But other than that, I really do sympathize with anyone who has spent plenty of money, only for it to throw itself down into the garbage dump. And this is especially coming from someone who's never decided on spending any cash on games like this. So with that out of the way, is this truly the end for Magia Record? Well, not quite. The Japanese version of Magia Record is still available in the App Store, and people have been moving to that version. However, since the game is region locked as I just discussed, you'll need to have access to the Japanese App Store in order to install it. And how do you do that exactly? Well, there's this guide on Reddit that explains how to access the Japanese App Store and install the Japanese version of the game for both Android and iOS. I'll link that guide in the description below if you guys are ever interested in buying the Japanese version of Magia Record. Though you'll have to start over again unless, if I'm correct, you know how to transfer accounts. However, in my case, I won't be able to do that since I deleted the app a couple of days ago, and I really don't want to go through the whole game from start to finish again. But even so, there's actually a Twitter post that RayShift, the one that translated Fate Grand Order, is currently developing an English translation patch of the Japanese version of Magia Record. If you guys want to learn more about this project, then I'll link their Discord server in the description as well. Phew, alright, now time for me to explain my own take on this. When I first heard of the announcement that the NA server of Magia Record was shutting down, I knew that I was going to scrap my Magia Record gameplay series entirely. I mean, I have part 10 currently uploaded and I only just started chapter 3 for goodness sake. The plan I had thought of to overcome this situation was to constantly record Magia Record 24/7. Well, if I had the time to because school, before the shutdown officially took place. This is what I've achieved so far. Yep, I've got quite the number of parts here that'll definitely keep the Magia Record gameplay series fresh and running. There's absolutely no way this shutdown bullcrap is going to stop me from finishing the whole game. Okay, about that last part, I was unable to finish the whole game. Actually, I intentionally stopped in the middle of chapter 8 due to how the sudden difficulty spike this game tends to have was quickly getting tiresome, in which I was totally unprepared for. I don't know, maybe I just suck at this game real badly, but the game is pretty feeble when it comes to giving rewards and level experiences that actually help strengthen my team, so it doesn't really do much for me when it comes to upgrading. I don't hate the game or anything, but I'm just pointing out some things that the game could have improved on while it was still around. Anyway, some of these parts may or may not have any commentary on them because occasionally, I'd record in places where my microphone set isn't in attendance, and instead have to resort to just in-game voices and audio. And I also won't have to be worried about my voice wearing itself out if I want to make these parts an hour long. But after around part 30, it's basically no commentary at that point and lasts for about an hour or so. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I've said all that needs to be said about this whole dilemma. And you know, even with the Japanese version of Magia Record still available and the development of an English patch for the Japanese version of the game, it's still pretty disappointing that the NA server for Magia Record is going to be shut down in the grand scheme of things. I mean, playing the game was like a dream come true for me when I first got it back in July. Well, because I'm a diehard fan of Magia, of course, and it's really sad to see it suddenly go away after only a year has passed. But on the bright side, I've got like 36 parts of Magia record in my storage that are definitely prone to uploading, so it really isn't the end for the whole series. It may not have been a complete series, but I still made the most out of it regardless. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this little announcement video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like or subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.